To complete the work with driven sets, let's take a look at the mirroring functions. As well as blend shape targets can be mirrored in various ways, the same is possible with driven sets. All mirroring commands are accessible through the channel actions. Invert simply inverts the values for all attributes of the current driven set members. The main mirroring actions are depending on the type of nodes and attributes related to the current pose you want to mirror. Since everything is possible and the application can be very different, it's not possible to automate everything. A minimum of user input is required to make the mirroring work for any individual case. Mirroring driven sets is divided into two basic categories. The first one applies to most cases where a particular pose should be mirrored to the other side. All set members are carrying side identifiers and have corresponding siblings on the other side. The other one covers the case where a pose should be flipped across the center axis, with set members on either side and also centered nodes which don't have a side identifier. Let's take a look at a simple example on how to mirror a driven set. In my scene, I have a driven set which controls some joints to create a smile for the character on the left side. This pose should be mirrored across. All joints have a sibling joint on the other side of the face. The driven set only contains joints which are on one side of the face. The center joint is not part of the set. In order to mirror this pose, we want the X position of the joints to be inverted, but the Y position would need to stay as it is. This needs to be defined in the properties of the driven set. With the driven set selected, press the Edit Driven Set button to open the Edit Driven Set Attributes window. Here we see that all set members have their translate X and Y attributes associated with the set. The difference to creating a new driven set is that these attributes appear in red, which means that they are already connected to the set. Since we want to have the translate X value inverted when mirroring the set, we need to tell shapes by marking the attributes as inverted. With the translate X attribute selected, press Mirror Inverted. Since the attributes are already connected to the set and the curves are already existing, we are being asked if we want to process the existing curves. This is currently not the case, because we are still working on the source-driven set and are merely preparing for the mirror process. We will come back to this in a minute. After cancelling the dialog, Translate X appears in blue, indicating that the value will be inverted when mirrored. To set it back to normal, simply repeat the process of inverting. The colors can be set individually. From the menu, choose Edit Color Preferences. We can now close the Driven Set Attributes window by pressing Apply. If we now choose Create Opposite from the channel actions, the mirrored set gets created. But let's see what happens when a driven set is mirrored without having set the right attributes beforehand. To reset, I delete the mirrored set and set the attributes from the source set back to the defaults. If I now mirror the set, you can immediately see that the attributes are getting the wrong values. To fix this, we don't have to go back but can directly edit the existing mirrored driven set. With the set selected, open the Edit Driven Set Attributes window and again invert the Translate X attributes. Now we can make use of the dialog we've seen earlier. Since we want to create a mirrored pose, we need to press the Mirror button. If the pose should be inverted around a center position, we would need to use the Invert button. We can immediately see that the pose now appears correctly. Of course, the source-driven set on the left side doesn't know that we edited the sibling, so if you need to mirror the driven set again, you might want to mark the attributes before the mirroring. So, in general, it's best to first define the attributes to be inverted and then mirror the driven set. For the second example, let's have a look at how a set can be mirrored or flipped across the center axis. The current pose of the character covers both sides and includes left, right and center joints. By looking at the set attributes, we can see that no attributes have been marked as inverting. To mirror the driven set across, we now have to select Create Centered Mirror, because both sides are involved in the pose. As a result, we can see that the poses have been badly mixed up. This is because we haven't set the attributes invert state properly to begin with. And in this particular case, it also doesn't help to fix the attribute properties afterwards. This is due to how Maya set-driven keys work in the background. But as we've seen before, it's always best to set the attributes before the driven set gets mirrored. To correctly mirror the set, we first delete the faulty right side and then open the Edit Driven Set Attributes window for the left pose. Again, Since the pose is only to be mirrored across the x-axis, only the translate x attribute needs to be inverted, but we don't want to apply this to the already existing curves. Press Apply to store the changes made. Now we can mirror the driven set with the Create Centered Mirror to get the correct inverted pose. Both mirroring modes, Create Opposite and Create Centered Mirror, come with a second command, which updates the mirror-driven set when the source side has been edited. Of course, for this to work, the mirror-driven set already needs to be in place. Depending on the set, choose either Match Opposite or Match Centered Mirror to update the sibling pose. If Auto Tweak Mirror is enabled, found in the Preferences Sculpt tab, editing a driven set on the one side automatically takes care of mirroring the changes over to the other side.